The buzz around the Los Angeles Dodgers keeps getting louder as the front office continues to explore ways to fine-tune an already stacked roster. There's a sense around the league that the next move is not about a blockbuster headline, but about finding the right fit to solve specific roster questions that could become bigger as the season approaches. One of the areas quietly under review is the outfield, especially with uncertainty surrounding potential player movement and long-term health considerations. Even a team coming off championship success understands that staying ahead means anticipating problems before they fully appear. For a while, many fans assumed the Dodgers would circle back to a versatile option from St. Louis who has built a reputation for playing almost anywhere on the field. That belief made sense, given how much value versatility holds in modern baseball. Being able to slide a player across multiple positions can protect a roster over a long season and give the coaching staff flexibility during tight stretches. However, as conversations across the league evolved, it started to look like that particular target might not be as realistic as originally thought. Competition from other teams appears heavy, and the Dodgers do not seem willing to overextend themselves in a bidding situation where the cost may outweigh the benefit. Instead, attention has shifted toward another outfielder from the same organization, a player whose profile is very different but intriguing in its own way. This is an outfielder with experience across all three outfield spots, a strong throwing arm, and familiarity with high-pressure environments on the international stage. That background matters, especially for a Dodgers team filled with stars who are accustomed to playing on the biggest stages baseball has to offer. The idea of adding someone who understands that intensity is appealing, even if the overall statistical profile raises questions. When you dig into the performance side, the picture becomes more nuanced. This player does some things well, particularly when it comes to plate discipline. He does not completely sell out at the plate, draws a share of walks, and shows solid bat speed that suggests more upside than the raw numbers might indicate. At the same time, there are clear limitations. The contact quality is inconsistent. A large portion of balls end up on the ground, and the overall offensive production settles more in the middle tier rather than jumping off the page. For a team like the Dodgers, who are used to elite output, that creates a natural debate about value. Defensively, the appeal is easier to understand. Covering ground in a spacious outfield requires more than just speed. Arm strength becomes a weapon, especially in left field, where runners are often tempted to take extra bases. Having someone who can deter that aggression changes how opposing teams approach situational baseball. That defensive contribution alone can swing close games, which is often the difference between winning a division comfortably or grinding through the final weeks of the season. Health, however, sits at the center of this discussion. Recent injury history cannot be ignored, especially when surgeries are involved that could impact availability at the start of season. The Dodgers have navigated similar situations before, sometimes successfully and sometimes with frustration. When a player is under team control for multiple seasons, that long-term value can soften the risk, but does not erase the short-term concern. The front office has to weigh whether patience will be rewarded or if that roster spot is better used on someone with fewer medical question marks. There is also the broader roster philosophy to consider. The Dodgers are not desperate. This is a crucial point that frames the entire conversation. They are looking for marginal gains, not miracles. Adding a solid, above-average outfielder who can rotate through positions might make sense if it complements other moves. On its own, it does not radically change the outlook of the team. That is why opinions are split. Some see a practical addition who raises the floor, while others struggle to get excited about a move that feels more like maintenance than ambition. The comparison to previous signings naturally comes up, and that comparison fuels skepticism. Dodgers fans have seen what happens when a move looks reasonable on paper but fails to deliver due to health or performance regression. Nobody wants a repeat of a situation where expectations and reality drift too far apart. At the same time, dismissing a player outright ignores the context of role and usage. Not every addition needs to be a star if it strengthens depth and protects against unforeseen issues over a long season. Ultimately, this potential trade reflects the careful balance the Dodgers try to maintain. They are hunting for value without forcing a splash. They are considering positional needs without blocking younger talent or tying up flexibility. Whether this outfielder ends up wearing Dodger blue or not, the interest itself signals that the front office is still active, still evaluating, and still looking for ways to sharpen the edges of a roster that is already among the strongest in Major League Baseball. The questions now revolve around timing, cost, and whether this move would stand alone or be part of a larger sequence of decisions that reshape the outfield picture heading into the next championship run. As the conversation keeps unfolding, the bigger issue is not just whether this specific outfielder fits, but what kind of message the Dodgers want to send with their next move. Every transaction at this stage carries symbolic weight. When a team already sits at the top of the sport, even minor adjustments are interpreted as signals of intent. Are they simply reinforcing depth, or are they preparing for a larger domino to fall later in the offseason? That question hangs over every rumor connected to this roster. From a strategic standpoint, the Dodgers have leaned heavily into flexibility over the past several seasons. They value players who can slide into different roles without disrupting the overall structure of the lineup or the defense. This potential addition clearly fits that mold. An outfielder who can move across positions, handle defensive responsibilities, and avoid being overmatched at the plate gives the coaching staff options. Over the course of a long season, options often matter more than star power in isolated moments. Still, the offensive ceiling remains the sticking point. For a team accustomed to imposing its will through relentless pressure at the plate, adding a bat that profiles closer to league average raises understandable concerns. This is not a player who changes how opponents game plan. Pitchers are not losing sleep over him in a series the way they might against the heart of the Dodgers order. That reality makes it difficult for some fans to fully buy into the idea that this move significantly improves the team. At the same time, baseball history is filled with examples of players who thrive when placed in the right environment. Lineup protection, coaching philosophy, and even ballpark dimensions can influence outcomes more than raw metrics suggest. Playing alongside elite talent can simplify a role, allowing a player to focus on execution rather than carrying an offense. In that sense, the Dodgers might believe there is more to unlock here than what recent stat lines show. Another layer to consider is timing. The offseason is not static, and patience often creates leverage. By monitoring the market without rushing, the Dodgers keep their options open. If prices drop or if other teams pivot toward different priorities, opportunities can materialize quickly. This front office has shown time and again that it prefers to strike when conditions are favorable rather than reacting emotionally to early market noise. There is also the internal factor. Younger players within the organization are always part of the equation. Any external addition must justify its presence over giving extended looks to developing talent. That internal competition shapes how aggressive the Dodgers are willing to be. A short-term stopgap only makes sense if it clearly raises the team's baseline or protects against specific risks that internal options cannot cover. Health continues to loom over the discussion. Surgeries and recovery timelines introduce uncertainty that no amount of scouting can fully eliminate. For a team that has dealt with key absences in critical moments before, caution is understandable. Even if long-term control makes the contract attractive, missing early portions of a season can force uncomfortable roster juggling and disrupt continuity. What makes this situation particularly interesting is that it feels unresolved by design. The Dodgers are not locked into one direction. Interest does not guarantee action. It simply confirms that evaluations are ongoing and that multiple pathways remain open. This player could be part of the plan, or he could simply represent one of many contingency options being explored quietly behind the scenes. As speculation continues, the broader takeaway is that the Dodgers are operating from a position of strength. They are not chasing relevance or scrambling to fill glaring holes. They are refining, adjusting, and preparing for scenarios that may or may not unfold. Whether this rumored target ultimately arrives or fades from the conversation, the process itself reveals a front office focused on sustainability rather than impulse, on calculated risk rather than reactionary moves, and on keeping the roster adaptable enough to respond when the next opportunity presents itself, especially if that opportunity reshapes the outfield picture in a way that aligns more closely with their long-term vision and competitive window as the season approaches and expectations continue to rise. What keeps this discussion alive is the feeling that the Dodgers are still one decision away from shifting the entire tone of their offseason. Moves like this do not exist in a vacuum. They connect to other possibilities, other conversations, and other evaluations happening simultaneously. Adding a player with this profile could signal that the front office is prioritizing stability and coverage rather than chasing another headline-grabbing addition. That approach makes sense for a team that already believes its core is strong enough to compete with anyone. The outfield, in particular, remains a delicate balance. Talent is there, but depth and durability are what ultimately carry teams through a full campaign. Injuries rarely announce themselves in advance, and having a capable option who can absorb innings without creating defensive or lineup chaos has real value. Even if the offensive output does not dramatically exceed league norms, preventing drop-offs when regulars are unavailable can quietly add wins over the course of a season. There is also the psychological side of roster construction. Players brought into an environment like Los Angeles often feel less pressure to be saviors and more freedom to play within themselves. That dynamic has revived careers before and turned role players into dependable contributors. The Dodgers may see a version of this outfielder that has not consistently appeared elsewhere, one shaped by structure, preparation, and clear expectations. Still, hesitation is natural. Fans remember recent experiences where similar logic did not translate into results. Optimism must coexist with realism. This is not a flawless solution, and it is fair to question whether the upside justifies the risk, especially when health concerns linger. The idea of starting a season without full availability from a new addition challenges the promise of immediate impact. What ultimately matters is how this move fits into the larger puzzle. On its own, it feels incomplete. As part of a broader plan, it becomes easier to accept. The Dodgers rarely act in isolation, and when they do make a move, it is often one piece of a layered strategy that only becomes clear later. That is why patience defines this moment. The story is still being written, and the next chapter could quickly reframe how this potential addition is viewed once the direction of the offseason becomes clearer and the front office reveals whether this was a stepping stone or simply one option among many in a constantly evolving landscape. As things stand, this feels less like a decision point and more like a checkpoint. The Dodgers are surveying the landscape, weighing scenarios, and allowing the offseason to breathe. Interest does not equal intent, and intent does not equal action. Everything remains fluid, and that is exactly how this front office prefers it. The next few weeks will likely bring more clarity, whether through movement elsewhere on the roster or shifts in the broader market. Until then, players like Nootbaar remain part of the conversation, not as definitive answers, but as possibilities waiting to be measured against patience, health, and long-term vision. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. Whispers are sweeping through the baseball world, and the buzz is impossible to ignore. The Los Angeles Dodgers might be making a move that could shake the very foundations of Major League Baseball. At the center of the speculation is none other than Aaron Judge, the towering slugger who has already cemented himself as one of the game's most fearsome hitters. Sources close to team insiders hint that the Dodgers have identified Judge as their #1 target in what could become a historic trade. For years, the Dodgers have been chasing the perfect mix of power, precision, and charisma in their lineup. Judge offers all three in spades. Standing at an imposing height with an even bigger reputation at the plate, the Yankees star has consistently dominated pitchers across the league. His combination of home run power, plate discipline, and the ability to change the course of a game with a single swing makes him an irresistible commodity for any team with championship ambitions. And the Dodgers, never shy about making headline-grabbing moves, seem ready to pull out all the stops. Insiders suggest that talks are in very early stages, with both sides carefully weighing the possibilities. The Dodgers are reportedly considering a blockbuster package, potentially involving a mix of top-tier prospects and established stars. The exact details remain shrouded in mystery, but the very fact that Judge is on their radar has sent shockwaves through the baseball community. Analysts are already debating the potential fit. Could Judge's power transform the Dodgers lineup into an even more terrifying force in the National League? Would his presence spark a ripple effect across other teams, forcing rivals to rethink their strategies? While nothing has been confirmed, the mere rumor has ignited speculation from fans and pundits alike. Some see this as a perfect alignment of ambition and opportunity, a chance for the Dodgers to secure a generational talent. Others caution that the cost of acquiring Judge could be astronomical, potentially reshaping the organization for years to come. Still, the possibility of seeing Judge don the Dodgers blue and white is enough to keep everyone talking, imagining the staggering highlights and game-changing moments that could unfold. If this trade were to materialize, it would not just be another transaction. It would be a statement. The Dodgers would be signaling that they are willing to go all in, chasing dominance with a star whose name already belongs in the pantheon of baseball legends. And for Aaron Judge, a move to Los Angeles could mark a thrilling new chapter in a career defined by power, poise, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. For now, it's all speculation, whispers in the corridors of power, and feverish debate among fans. But one thing is certain. The idea of Judge in a Dodgers uniform has already captured imaginations, promising an electrifying future for the sport, should the rumors prove true. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.